You know what time it is, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Dude Bros Complain About Female Characters. Today's entry to the pointless yet never-ending debate is the latest Predator-centric film, Prey. And it seems that the film's director, Dan Trachtenberg, has had enough. Calling out the viewers who've been complaining about this aspect of the film, the man had quite a lot to say. Here's everything we know so far. Starting off with putting the foot down. Trachtenberg has recently stated that any complaints surrounding the film's female MC, Naru, played by uber-talented Amber Midthunder, all result from the fans misremembering one of the core dynamics between the heroes and villains in the franchise's debut film, Predator. Trachtenberg's Prey is the fifth entry into the ever-growing franchise and follows a narrative that chronologically dates all the way back to Predator's earliest hunt. It allowed viewers to witness the iconic villain as it terrorizes yet another set of new protagonists, somewhere in early 18th century, facing off against our heroine, the warrior Naru, as she tries to protect her tribe from the gruesome fate that awaits them. The film also pays tribute to the previous entries within the franchise and presents a whole new perspective on understanding the core conflict between hunter and prey. It featured as many finger-biting escapes and gruesome showdowns as you'd expect from cinematic history's most fearsome monsters. Ever since the release of the first 1987 release of John McTiernan's classic Predator, fans have often wondered how well one of the Predators would fare when facing off against warriors in an age with no machinery. Short films and fan creations featuring the titular hunters have been populating the internet for ages now, from a duel against the Knights Templar to even squaring off against DC's Dark Knight. Prey saw both the villain and the heroine get stripped down to the bare bones, fighting with primitive tomahawks and bows. The new format has seen mostly positive reviews, and many are calling it the best film in the franchise ever since the first. Let's take a look at why people are complaining about it then. One complaint that has been pretty unnecessarily prominent on the film's release concerns the believability of a woman being able to face off against such a menacing foe. Trust us, we're rolling our eyes just as hard as you are. While speaking on the Radio 1 Screen Time podcast, Trachtenberg talked about how he believes that this complaint was based on the series' fans misremembering the original film's core conflict. He indirectly reminded viewers that the whole point of the original film was never about buff male action stars blowing the alien threat to high heavens, but rather stripping them of the weaponry that would give them an advantage in doing so. Both Predator and Prey force hunters to be in their most vulnerable states. Them coming up with ways to evade and defeat something far more powerful than them, physically and technologically, are where the excitement of the conflict came from. Of course, Prey is also loaded with action sequences requiring a suspension of disbelief, but complaining about a female lead lacking believability in her ability to take on a foe seems suspicious in its intentions. The film tries to avoid criticisms regarding the physicality of the lead by showing how she outsmarts her much larger rival instead of facing it head-on, which has always been what decides the hero's success in this franchise. It achieves an interesting juxtaposition with the bulky frames of MCs such as Arnold Schwarzenegger and Adrian Brody for a much refreshing style of the new protagonist, posing a different threat to the beast hunting her. Let's take a look at another problem Prey should actually focus on fixing next. What we should really be talking about is the potential Prey sequel needs to get rid of a major Predator trend and be the first to feature returning characters. Over the course of 30 years worth of movies, the Predator franchise has always used sequels to slightly reinvent the series. The new movie introduces audiences to Naru and follows her journey to prove herself as a warrior by going to war with the inhuman hunter, which needs to continue. Dutch, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, was the main character in 1987's original Predator, where he manages to successfully defeat the alien hunter. However, once Predator 2 came around, Dutch didn't return, and Mike Harrigan became the new MC. 2010 would then bring about another soft reboot to the franchise, along with a new protagonist in Royce. 2018's Predator changed focus by putting Quinn McKenna at the center of the story. Now, Naru assumes the lead role in Prey, following that tradition of showing brand new stories about people facing off against predators. What's more, it would be beneficial for the franchise as a whole. Instead of focusing on new characters, Prey 2 is perfect for breaking this trend and finally using returning characters in a Predator sequel. The franchise has already kind of toyed with the idea in the past, with Arnold Schwarzenegger coming close to returning a few times. However, Prey is a great standalone installment in the franchise, and it's a story that needs to continue. Its ending leaves much room for Naru to return in future stories, revealing more details about the film's surprise Predator 2 pistol connection. Prey 2 might finally be time for a Predator sequel to include characters that already exist in the previous canon, and give the audience a rematch between the Comanche warrior and the aliens. Furthermore, Prey's ending gives that idea the perfect shot at coming true. Naru's likely going to be returning in a future sequel movie. Not only is Prey a major hit for Hulu, but the film's credits directly set up a sequel. Instead of the traditional post-credits sequence commonplace for such events in Hollywood, the movie used animated cave drawings to recount Naru's adventure, but at the very end of the credits sequence, it shows two Predator ships arriving at the camp that Naru and the others call home. It's obviously teasing that Prey 2 will be exploring more of Naru's story and focuses on the Predators returning to Earth to take out the humans who killed one of their own. Before the tease, Prey's, we see Naru return to camp after her victory and warn the tribe about needing to relocate so they wouldn't be vulnerable to any future attacks, whether it be from aliens or wild animals. One of the film's biggest unanswered questions, however, is what happened to the ship that dropped off the original Yautja at the beginning of the movie. And while it's possible that it could have left Earth, the credits hint that it might have been watching the events unfold and call in some backup. As long as the Predators didn't take decades to come back to exact revenge, then it makes sense for Prey 2 to include returning characters like Naru. Finally, in other Prey-related news, first up, Prey made the right move to remove one character's story. Prey star Julian Black Antelope described in a recent interview how his character, Chief Kahitu, had his own storyline that had ultimately been cut from the finished film. Antelope talked about how he was originally scripted to be dying and in need of a successor as chief of their tribe. He also mentioned how at the start of Prey, Kahitu only had his eyes on choosing from the male characters in the tribe to succeed him over Naru, the female protagonist. The deleted scenes that he describes sounds like they'd fit in quite well with the themes of fighting traditional gender roles. However, the filmmakers were right to leave them out, since they would have just taken away from what made Prey so good, its unwavering focus on Naru's journey. Next up, what other survival films can learn from Prey? There are many reasons why Prey is a fine addition to the overall Predator franchise, but perhaps the most important is that it doesn't just focus on the Predator, but also explores a different historical context: humanity. While the Predator films always tend to focus on human survival and their instincts, only Prey took this premise further back into the past where the film was set in and separated it from the usual modern American context. The film's tribal setting took away all the comforts of modern society and technology and stripped our heroes down to nothing as they face this terrifying creature. And lastly, Dakota Beavers talks about the film decision that he still has mixed feelings over. Beavers was specifically asked about the decision to shoot Prey in English instead of Comanche. When asked about the studio's call, the scene-stealing actor explained why he had both positive and negative opinions on the choice. Though he thought it would be easier to perform in English, he still believes that it would have been cooler for cultural appreciation and because it would have just been plain cooler. Prey is Dakota Beavers' first role in any feature film or TV show, so understandably, he'd want to speak in the language with which he's the most familiar. However, it's also hard to argue against what he mentions about shooting the move in Comanche, since that's simply something that's never done before for major Hollywood releases. That's a wrap for this video. What are your opinions on this pointless debate? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.